not hearing your music. Hello?
Yep. Hello.
Want to make sure you were still there.
I'm here. We're all here. We're live with everybody. Hello to all the people.
Yes.
So welcome one and all to a Fulfillment Friday, a very special one in honor of the upcoming Everfree Northwest, but also a celebration. I'm joined by my bud Trinary. Say hi, Trinary. Are we okay?
Hello, folks.
There we go. Yee. Hello to you. Hello to all the people in the chit chat, whom I will now list with the names. First, we have Cherry Fluff Belly Official. Enderpup couldn't join us on account of family dinner, but was kind enough to pop in and offer congratulations. Thank you, Enderpup. Adam Leisman is here, along with our bud Mad Munchkin, who's doing D&D tonight, but wishes everyone a good time to enjoy the stream. Cosmeta Inspira.
D&D is a great excuse.
Beg your pardon?
D&D is a good excuse.
It is. I rolled a +3 time commitment. And then we have Cosmeta Inspira and Grim Wolf, Pokemon Fire Eevee, and Swordbreaker 12, who asks, have we got a video? Yes, we've got a video. Infinite Warlock, who needs more context to answer that. I'm not sure what question. And then let's see. Paw Patrol Fan 95, Inquisitor 751, Mary Drake, and Luna Brony. And now the screen just jumped on me, making sure I haven't missed folks like Nathan DeWazo and Elizabeth Snowbell. And for the moment, I believe that's all the peeps. So, all coming together. Hello, everybody. Now, the question for which we needed more context, I need a little context myself. So going back...
They were talking about this. I think they were talking about the Season 10 comics.
I thought they were talking about some sort of multi-tool? I'm unsure. Let's see. Multi-tool. Anyone planning on getting the Hacksmith 21-in-1 multi-tool? Oh, yes, and the question of your OC, which is a fun place to start. Let's chat about how you designed a winged zebra with a Egyptian influence, eh?
All right. Well, Commodore Steele also asked me about my name, so I figured I might as well start with that.
There we go.
So it's trinary. That is not a math or a computer code reference. I didn't know those were things until after I picked the name. I was at least, the middle of three brothers, and all of us were boys, 3 sons. And if you're familiar with astronomy terms, you would know that a solar system with 2 suns is called a binary star. I kind of extrapolated that a 3-sun system would be called a trinary. Technically, the term is a ternary solar system, but I think that kind of sounds awful, and trinary just sounds more reasonable. So I kind of picked the name to, reflect that and to honor my younger brother who died in October of 2010, shortly before I got into the show. So that's kind of the origin of the name. The character on screen is technically not a pony-sona in that it's not, me per se. I call this character Kalani, and I've always been a very, history-minded person, so I've always kind of liked the influence of other civilizations, like the ancient Egyptian. It's just a great aesthetic, you know. Um, so I always liked that influence, and you know, I enjoyed Zecora. I wish they had done more zebras in the show as well. Um, so my thinking was, well, you know, ponies normally don't have like wings or horns, so why shouldn't the other equine races of Equestria have their own variant versions? You know, why can't there be like donkeys with horns or zebras with wings? So I just kind of played around with that until I got, you know, a design I kind of liked. A touch busy, arguably, but it's unique at least, I think.
I think it looks good.
Yeah.
And well, my
Thank you.
apologies. I didn't have a version of your personal OC on the available. It took me a little bit to even remember Kalani's name. I was like, oh, I know just the OC to use. Oh, wait, it went by a different name.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a bit of a Silver-Quill clutter step situation, as someone pointed out in the chat.
Indeedy.
I don't bust out, you know, the Trinary Pony as often, if only because he's visually, you know, not too interesting.
Oh, come on.
By comparison, at least. Honestly, he's very blue, and he actually looks a little bit like a winged clutter step without the eye markings. Not deliberate, it's just I like certain colors. I don't know.
Well, makes sense to me.
Yeah. So that's the background of my fandom name and my OCs. So I think that brings us up to the present, relatively present.
Indeed. Now is a gift. That's why it's called the present.
You stole that from Kung Fu Panda, didn't you?
And they stole it from some other book. There's a whole lot of theft going on. That's all there is to it. And so, therefore, goals for tonight. I've pulled up the audience for my Divine Child archetype study, which is, yes, still happening, but boy howdy. Drawing non-pony anthros is a weird feeling. So very weird. It's good, but it's weird. But we're coming along. I think I got like one more cat or, well, hunter's race to be sure, and more to follow after that. Like moles and Spyro's dragonfly family. So you get dragonfly, that's why they adopted him. It's funny.
Yes. The man with smalls is what the moles are called.
I'm sorry, what are they called?
The man with smalls.
Huh.
Like man with smalls is kind of compressed together as a word.
Oh, okay.
Even though
That makes
the man with smalls.
That makes sense. Very interesting. But it was also stupid. No, not stupid. Wait a minute. How many people how many people actually get that reference?
Say it again?
Very interesting. But it was also stupid.
Sounds familiar.
Have you ever seen a show called Laugh-In?
Don't think so.
Oh, the sadness, the oldness. That oldness is me. I'm old. But yes, it was a comedy variety show, not quite able to compete with Saturday Night Live, but boy, did it have some good jokes. Boy, howdy. But I digress. Now, we are on the cusp of Everfree Northwest. It is a mere 2 weeks away. And looking forward to seeing everybody, looking forward to being part of some fun panels, and hopefully get to catch up with friends. I know for a fact that a certain Lightning Blissy Boo, the Wilstonator, and Jasper Pie will be there, along with Cosmic Keyframe, I believe. So I'm looking forward to seeing all of them, and my buds with the Commentary is Magic, who handled the collectible card game, my vending buds, and, of course, the illustrious Q and Trinary here.
Yay!
So, I'm very lucky. I've got a lot of social circles at these cons.
They do tend to overlap.
They do.
Although the flip side of that is that they tend to, how to politely phrase, they all want a piece of you. And you spread yourself a touch thin.
Oh my goodness. But yes, it's the trade-off. When you have a Venn diagram, well, the overlap is a part of it. And I enjoy it. Now then, I just pulling up some... I needs me a Seattle skyline, or even though it's in good old Bellevue, it's the sister city. Seattle Forest. Let's see what vectors I can find. But this will be a special Everfree Northwest because Trinary, I understand that you have something special going on.
Oh, just a little thing. So, yes. For those not in the know, I've been around the fandom since, mid-season 1, written some fanfics. One of them, got a decent amount of traction back in the day, back when the fandom was, really exploding, and back in the old days. So I eventually decided to make a print run of it, since there's this great... I don't know how to describe them. If you go to Everfree, you'll see this table called Twilight's Book Nook, and it's a place that helps produce or sell physical copies of fanfics for My Little Pony. Uh-huh. And, it's really cool. You get to see some stuff that's, old classics as well as new things you weren't familiar with. And this year I'm bringing 10 copies of my book to be sold at the Nook. And hopefully, people will be interested in taking a look at it.
So they got a Nook with some books and they're looking for a hook. And hopefully,
I am staring at you very half-liddedly right now. Well, I just want you to know.
At least I'm not a crook. I can go on.
I'm sure you can. Yes. Yep. So, yeah, my story is called Rain Brooms and Royalty, and, it's an alternate universe retelling of the first 2 episodes of My Little Pony with a slightly different lead. Oh, and hey, Jose, one of my friends and one of the artists is just joined the chat. Yo.
Destroying the chat? Oh my goodness.
Just joined the chat.
Oh, okay. That sounds way better.
Yep. Oh, yeah, I should probably have added. If anyone is ever confused by what I just said, feel free to ask. I have a little bit of a leftover speech impediment, and sometimes I speak a little quickly, so it's not always clear. I'm not offended if people ask me just to repeat something, so just, if you didn't track what I just said, just ask.
But no worries either way. I mean, if someone does want to destroy the chat, it might actually be quite the spectacle. But just know, when you set out to destroy something, often you only make it stronger.
So is that why you want all of your friends to constantly attack you in videos?
Exactly.
Blow yourself up and such?
That's right. It blows up my ego.
Method to the madness.
To quote JT Music, there's a method to my madness. Get mad. I take it you've heard of JT Music then?
Actually, I haven't. I'm just also kind of keeping a loose eye on the chat.
Okay.
And no, it's not Brooklyn. I'm not from Brooklyn. It's very funny. I've lived all my life in Long Island, but every fifth or sixth person I meet doesn't think I'm native-born American. They think I'm British or South African or whatever else. I've gotten some very odd guesses about where they think I'm from, and I'm like, I'm from here.
Okay, suddenly, forgive me, but I'm very curious. What was like the weirdest guess in your memory?
One person thought I was Czech. I don't know what a Czech accent really sounds like, so that was a little interesting. One person said Jamaican. I am a very white, Jewish, New Yorker, so that was a very out there guess, and I'm just like, really? What Jamaicans do you know? Yeah, that one has kind of lost my memory.
Well, personally, I like the Czech guess. They're trying to check yourself or your ex yourself.
I will give the Czechs credit for having one of the best named pony conventions.
Which one is that? My memory gets bad.
Czechquestria, portmanteau of Czech and Equestria.
Marvelous.
Yeah, you like puns, I like portmanteaus.
There we go. Although that's a funny word when you think about it. I mean, portmanteaus I could get, but this is portmanteaus. Does that even make sense?
I'm not an entomologist. Or is it etymologist?
Well,
Those always get me.
Now I'm not sure myself.
It's just funny.
But you mentioned that your story is essentially Friendship is Magic's beginning, but with a different protagonist. Would you like to reveal who that protagonist might be?
Yep. So this is an alternate universe, premise. What if instead of Twilight Sparkle, Celestia student was Rainbow Dash? A little bit out there at this day and stage, but I remember back in the day, Rainbow Dash was based on Firefly, who was Flora and Faust's favorite pony character. That was even the name of her DeviantArt account when she had one, or was active there anyway. And I remember her saying once, I forget where, that, when she started writing the story, it just kind of became more of Twilight story. But she also tossed out some other ideas that sounded interesting, but just never made it into the show for one reason or another. So this is kind of loosely, I guess you could say it's very loosely inspired by some of, Faust's, I guess, original-ish ideas for the show.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
So Faust, in one possible version, was that Rainbow Dash would be the lead perspective character.
I think I remember hearing that in, I think it was Chad Rocco, Familiar Faces retrospective. I think she said something that, Firefly was her favorite, and she started with her, who became Rainbow Dash, but that it just, as she was working on it, it just kind of made more sense and became Twilight Story. I remembered something to that effect. Memory may have gotten that a little bit clouded, but I still remember that from somewhere.
Memory is a fickle thing.
Yep.
Very fickle.
Yes.
So in essence, you've already talked about the elevator pitch for this year's story, which is, I'll tell you, a friend of mine, when I asked him to give me the elevator pitch, try to sum it up in 2 sentences, he said, I can sum it up in 1 word. And this is me. I think that's a mistake, because anyone can come up with a word to describe a story, or at least get you to do a double take. My story: mayonnaise. Bing bong. There you go. That's my 1-word summary. Makes no sense, right? But 2 sentences. That's the hard part, and that's one of the best parts. So let's pretend for a moment that I am someone who is not familiar with the show, but you would still like to make the elevator pitch for this, for reasons. what would you say to someone who's not in the know on the pony show?
That's a tough one. It's, I guess you could say it's the story of a very headstrong, determined character who is determined to make her mark and, fight a great evil, but in her zeal, loses perspective of what is actually needed to defeat this evil and has to learn to rely on others rather than succumbing to the pressure of trying to do it all herself.
Very nice. That's a good elevator pitch.
Thanks.
I especially like how you worked in Make Your Mark. I mean, that's kind of paying homage to Pony Show, even if it's not picked up by a person not in the know. So that's fun. My only critique would be that you use the phrase determined twice in back-to-back sentences, which is, it's hard to avoid, but, well, that's why you do practice pitches before you actually talk to the folks.
Yeah, I was admittedly kind of winging that one. I was thinking more about some of the other questions you had pitched. And just looking at the chat. Yes, Swordbreaker, I do remember that someone did write a version where Rainbow Dash was the student, but was a unicorn and had Spike with her. I can't remember too much about it. And to answer Infinite Warlock, I don't recall either of those fics off the top of my head. Maybe I would if I, pulled them up, but not at the moment. Anyway. There's a lot of, really great pony fan fiction that, I do remember post Noobshows now that I've looked it up. Well, at least it's, a story that I liked in Phage back in the day. Mm-hmm. It's just a lot of pony fics. A lot of them, influenced me and, what I did and didn't do in my own writing.
Well, there was a story with a similar premise, but they took a greater liberty in changing Rainbow Dash. No.
So it seems. Yep, I do remember a little bit. Like, her personality was still very much the same, despite being a unicorn. And I think I remember her having some interaction with Blue Blood. That was, that she used to mess with him. Though, of course, that's a scenario that kind of writes itself.
They likely didn't know back then, but imagine if she'd had interactions with Zephyr Breeze at that point.
That is a character who I liked his first appearance. Every subsequent one made me just kind of wince and really cringe, and not a good way. I'm sure this character is going to end up on a registry somewhere kind of way. So diminishing returns from a not very high source to begin with.
And it's not a bridal registry, mind y'all.
Yeah, not that registry. Something much less. Well, you get the idea. Cherry Fluff Belly asks, how did you get into your series of drawing? I'm guessing you're talking about the art of the story, whose pictures I've posted on my DeviantArt gallery. I should mention, it's a lot of people. Well, not a lot. A good number of people have published, their own fics as books. Some people get art for them. Some people don't. I decided to go out and, commission art of various scenes from the story. They were people I knew from the fandom or knew by reputation, and just kind of went a little nuts in commissioning just a bunch of people. There's 18 pictures from about as many different artists including Jose, who is in the chat. He's actually, I think, the guy who got me into Friendship is Magic.
Aha, well then we have many thanks to give to Jose. And
Yes.
to show off some of that wonderful artwork, I've pulled up Le DeviantArt account. So this is Rainbows and Royalty.
Yep.
And I don't want to give away too much.
There's ponies in it.
There's pony. Well, what? There's that's a spoiler. How do I know they're not like weird reverse ponies?
I'm trying to think of what that would even be.
I guess they would be like really big. Like that's the reverse
Big
of
donkeys.
a really big pony. That all. Oh yeah, they're all like. Oh gosh, darn it! Trouble shoes. There we go. They're all like trouble shoes.
Yep.
And I don't want to go too. I don't want to get too spoilery with these close-ups. Though I did, reading the story, I did find there's some better context for this shot. I promise. But I'm not going to give it away because you need to read the story. And to have...
It just occurred to me what other context people could read into that scene. Thank you for that. My mind had not gone there.
This is the threat when you expose your ideas to the world. You get people like me. It's not fair.
Yep.
But I'm not going to give anything away because I want people to read and have the ideas for themselves. I also wanted to include screenshots, but I've got 4 events on Friday, so we're just going to have to...
I was going to say only 4.
Well, I mean, technically 5. I mean, there's opening ceremonies, too. But as long as I've known you, you're a very big Rainbow Dash fan.
Yes.
Tell us about your enjoyment of the Dashy Dash.
Alrighty. A lot of people, when they find a character they relate to a lot, that for them becomes their favorite character. That is not my situation with Rainbow Dash at all. Like, growing up, the characters I liked the most were the ones I related to, and these tended to be very shy characters, somewhat, I guess, intellectual. Like, my favorite Sailor Scout, for instance, was Sailor Mercury. My favorite pilot from Gundam Wing was Catra.
Mm-hmm.
So those kind of characters were my thing. I really did not respond well to the very, action-oriented, kind of brash or abrasive characters, the jocks, because, I felt like a very, I was a very Fluttershy-like kid, or Fluttershy in Twilight, I guess. Very bookish, very socially awkward, very reserved, totally asocial. And that's kind of how I was for, the good first half of my life, And when I started watching Friendship is Magic, Rainbow Dash was the first character of that general archetype or trope who I actually found myself responding positively to, mostly because she actually avoided a lot of the really obnoxious tropes and cliches that one typically associates with them. You think of, you were complaining about feeling old, Silver?
Me?
Do you remember Eureka's Castle?
Yes, I do.
Yep. So, typically, what I remember from being a kid is that any character who was, portrayed as confident or, very prideful was a character like the Great Batley. Make way, the Great Batley is on his way, flies into a wall, I meant to do that. It's pretty one note, and most characters were kind of written in that manner. Like, if they screwed up, it's like, oh, I meant to do it. Or it's, the Bart Simpson. If they see a character who's awesome and they feel very threatened and, pissy about it. I could do that if I wanted to, I just don't want to. Rainbow Dash really did not do that stuff. She was, very confident and outgoing naturally, but she always responds very positively to other characters who display, like, comparable athletic skills. Gilda, Little Strongheart, Lightning Dust at first. Like, it's like, oh, you're cool. Even when she wants to be mad at a character who is, like, a quasi-threat to her, like the Washouts, she couldn't stay mad at them because they were just so cool. I really liked that sort of thing about her, that she didn't have a lot of annoying tropes and cliches. She could own that, yeah, I messed up the trick and I didn't blame it on, like, the sun being in my eyes, or I accidentally flew into a flock of geese or something. She didn't do that, and that was very refreshing, was very interesting, and she was just a very lively character. She clearly enjoyed doing, whatever it was she was doing. She is the kind of person who, when she is motivated and wants to do a thing, she goes all in, like 110%, which is such a contrast to, me and just how I would do things. Like, I don't like doing things until I know, like, as much about it as possible. So I just really responded well to her, and she was like my first character of that mold who I really enjoyed. And it always bugged me when the show tried to drag her back into the mold she broke out of. Tried to reduce her to the old tropes and cliches of the prideful character who needs to be taken down a peg. And like I said, I'm a child of the 80s, and a lot of the writing back of 80s cartoons was a little bit flat in certain ways. And I walked away as a kid thinking, it's better to be underconfident than overconfident. And I am pretty sure I said this out loud once or twice, because that's what I got from the shows I watched back in the day. And with the benefit of, 40 plus years on this planet, I can say that that's nonsense. It is not any better to be the one as opposed to the other. That, there's the expression, pride goes before a fall, and it's true, but people don't think about the flip side of that, which is, if you don't have any pride, you're never going to rise in the first place. So she really got me to, like, rethink a lot of those old tropes and cliches and axioms that just is from what I grew up with. And I like when people are willing to put themselves forward and say, no, I can do this, as opposed to just being eternally paralyzed, which is how I was for most of my life. So I see her as kind of inspirational in that way. Kind of went off on a tangent there, but...
No, tangent away. It's great that Rainbow caused you to analyze the script of life, as it were. That, well, too much of trying to teach humility ends up conveying
inadequacy, self-effacing tendencies,
stagnation.
Yeah.
So that
was something I always wish the show was a little bit better about putting forward. Like, of course, everyone, can, or most people, I should say, can relate to a Fluttershy situation and love seeing her growth. But at the same time, it's good to acknowledge the other side of things. I put it once somewhere. Like, for every Fluttershy that we bond with because we felt as frightened and unsure of ourselves as she feels, we also need a Rainbow Dash to show us that impossible things can be possible. For every Applejack who's experienced a family issue that we all go through, we need a Pinkie Pie to show us to look at things from a completely new perspective. For every Twilight who reminds us how we get too focused on something, we need a Rarity to show us how even details or things we are prone to discounting, like fashion, I guess, can be shown to be something amazing. So there's that balance. Like, you need, the people, the heroes you relate to, the role models in real life who get you to do, the things you need to learn in order to be a functioning, individual. Get up on time, do your work, clean your teeth, etc. But you also need those role models who inspire you to want to do more. And even if it turns out that you aren't able to become an astronaut or whatever, it's always better to at least have tried than to have, what's the expression? And I'm pretty sure I'd give it to Rainbow Dash or a character or two in the story itself. It's always better to,
aim for the stars.
Yeah, you say it, because I'm blanking.
Let's see here. I believe the phrase is always aim for the stars. Even if you miss, you'll hit the heavens.
That's the one. Yeah. So since the show began, I found myself really enjoying Rainbow Dash far more than I ever thought I would. Like, she was for me what I think Rarity was for you. Like, I didn't think I would like that kind of character. I historically had, but she was just so much fun and so lively that I really found myself liking a new character type that I generally haven't. And added to what I spoke about before with, talk that she was Lauren Faust's favorite, that made me want to do something more with Rainbow Dash.
Alrighty. Very nice, and I appreciate, everything you say about her character. Could not have said it better myself.
Thank you. And yes, that is the quote, Pokemon Fire Eevee.
Oh, I've not done a great job of keeping up with the chat.
I've been keeping a loose eye. And, yeah.
Much appreciated.
Yeah.
Okay. I've heard some variations of it, but it all comes back to always aim high.
Yeah.
And I'm glad for that.
There's a new one I saw at my job place. I work in a public school. And there's one that really stuck with me because it's very vivid. And it says, if your dreams don't scare you, you aren't dreaming big enough. And that's, like, almost aggressive, but it's like, wow, that's actually kind of well argued.
It's funny, I heard a quote from a race car driver, if you've got everything under control, you're not going fast enough. Which, I don't take that philosophy into my car driving, but...
yeah, some mileage may vary.
Mileage may vary, well done.
Thank you.
Very, very nice. I'm so proud of you. Okay. Now, we talked about the fandom that fanfic writers have tackled Rainbow in a variety of ways that you've gotten to see. How shall I put it? You've been in the know with the secret language of the fandom. So there were a lot of fandom theories that I saw in the story that helped flesh out some what I would call second-tier characters. And I'm not going to give away because, again, I want everybody to read the dang story. But where did you go, and how were you influenced by these fan theories? I mean, were there any popular places where you first learned of these various theories?
Kind of hard to answer since, you're trying to avoid spoilers by not mentioning specific ones, but it's kind of hard to answer when I'm not quite sure which ones you're referring to. Are you referring to certain second-tier characterizations, certain characters, and how they're characterized?
Let's give away just this much. There is a certain gray mare with some crazy eyes, and fans have ample theories about her. How much were those in your brain, or as I've recently learned, to quote Norse mythology, your thought cage, when you were writing this story?
So, to kind of answer a couple of different questions at once. Like when I originally wrote this story, it was like between season 1 and 2, just for reference. So I was influenced by a lot of like early fandom stories and material. Um, so little things that, this is something that people may not remember, but like back in the early days of the fandom, like there were a couple of different fics that like to speculate that Rainbow Dash had a middle name and it was Miriam because, Pinky was Pinkamena Diane Pie. So a lot of people, so someone just started the idea that Rainbow's middle name was Miriam, and it just popped up in like a bunch of different fanfics by different people. How, why, I couldn't exactly explain, but there was a lot of little things like that that tended to make the rounds since this was very early in the show. We had less to work, less, canon, so to speak. There were 9 seasons worth of episodes to dissect, so we were kind of spinning our wheels, coming up with our own sort of characterization and theories that included microanalyzing every minor background character and what their deal was. So there was a lot of my writing was very much influenced by that milieu. The fact that I was writing at the time when it was very early fandom. Like the basic premise of the story is influenced by another very popular fanfic series called the Luniverse, which is also alternate universe. The author is Rainbow Double Dash, and the story is just, what if 1,000 years ago, instead of Luna, it was Celestia who lost her mind, ended up being banished, and then Luna had to rule on her own. Then cue, the return of Celestia in a dark form. Cue Luna's student having to make a bunch of friends to stop her. Only, the student of the element of magic was Trixie. So it was a very popular series, like a bunch of different writers would write in that setting. It was a huge influence on me. Likewise, when it comes to like fandom perceptions of minor characters, essentially pretty much named her, and everyone in the chat figured it out. There's a classic story, Ditsy Doo's Dismally Derpy Day. And it is like probably one of the definitive early stories that that gave like the most popular characterization of her as a character, loving muffins, just everything about her. So that kind of became like the mainstream view of muffins, ditzy, derpy, whatever you want to call her. So I kind of just went with it. Since it was very popular, it was very enjoyable. There's a lot you can do with a character. She's not one note, despite how it comes off sometime in the fandom. There's a lot of things people have done with the character of our gray-eyed muffin mare. So I was just kind of, when I wrote the story, it was influenced by, these early stories that, obviously left an impact. Yeah. And just to answer Infinite Warlock, no, the Lunar Republic, Celestial Empire thing was... Actually, I don't exactly know where that came from. It's a popular thing in a good number of fics, but the Luniverse isn't like... Well, it's not the Lunar Republic because Luna is the princess and she's running things. That's pretty non-Republic. But it was just a very expansive alternate universe, just reinventing characters, reimagining them in different roles. And, I wanted to do my own thing with Rainbow Dash, so that was a huge influence for me and what I did.
I don't think I've ever heard the Rainbow Dash middle name theory until now. I'm not sure how I missed that.
Yeah.
But that speaks to the diversity of the fandom. All these years later, you can still find out some headcanons were running around.
Yep.
Now then.
Well,
yes?
oh, no, you go.
Well, I was about to move on with the questions, but I want to hear what you have to say.
Let's Right. So, yeah, I guess this kind of answered a few at once that, um, when it came to alternate universes have always been just, I mean, technically every fanfic is an alternate universe we happen to show, but you know what we mean. Alternate universe as in like a different premise. Um, and I've always been kind of attracted to those kind of things. I was a history major. I liked alternate history stories where, this famous battle, instead of being won, was lost, the other side won. And so I've always been kind of attracted to those like little what if stories. Is anyone a fan of the Cat series? I remember them coming up once or twice in the discussions.
I'm sorry. Which series where you were chopping in and out
Warriors
just
or Warrior Cats.
Warrior Cats.
Yeah.
I'm afraid I'm drawing a blank on that one myself.
Yep. Yeah, I don't think you have, but I remember it coming up once or twice in the chat. I actually wrote a story where, it's about a cat who joined one of 4 clans in the forest. When instead of joining the one clan, he ended up joining, the bad guy clan. And I kind of wrote a story about that. So this isn't my first brush with writing alternate universe what if stories. It's just kind of a very interesting genre, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Funny thing, for a writing contest on film fiction, I think it was like I forget what the theme was, like swapping characters around. And, I came up with like a one-shot, what if instead of Spike, the egg Twilight hatched was Smolder, and people like really liked that premise and said, are you going to do more of this? And I really just thought of this as a one-shot. I wasn't planning to do anything more with it. But yeah, people like those kind of stories.
And well, it sounds like you have a good skill for asking questions and exploring them. Honestly, some of the best creative decisions or opportunities arise from the unexpected.
That's true, but I'm also working with the benefit of hindsight and working kind of in a reactive sense to things in the show. Like, I didn't especially care for how this went in the show. Why don't I go in a different direction with the story that I write? So I am kind of modifying or adapting the groundwork that was laid by others. Technically, I guess you could say that all fan fiction is that at the end of the day. It's why I've chosen to write stories about characters that are established instead of just coming up with totally original characters or a totally original setting. I just like kind of working within the interesting framework set by others.
I get you. Well, no shame in that. I'm curious. I forget the story. It was a short story I read, but it basically asked what happened if Abraham Lincoln did get shot just before the Gettysburg Address. Let's see here. Just looking for a story name. But really,
Offhand, I would.
Oh wait.
Offhand, I would say bad things happened. Most likely.
Well, the funny thing is that it's a time jump after that to pre-World War II, where FBI agents are in the South trying to squelch a Nazi-backed neo-Confederate uprising. And well, I have to find neo-Confederate.
You'll probably just pull up the White House page.
Oh, he went there. But yes, I was thinking the same thing. I especially thought that when you were talking about a royal can't be the leader of a republic. So once again, yes. America has no kings. But that's as political as I'll get because there's a whole lot of hoopla going on in this here world right now. That's putting it politely.
Yep.
Johnny, I'm sorry. Just recently, we seem to be cutting. You're cutting in and out on me. I'm not sure what's what.
Okay, is this any better? I may have pulled back a little bit from the screen.
I'm wondering
Better?
because I know you're working with your computer monitor. Do you have headphones by chance?
Unfortunately, no.
Okie dokie. Then no worries.
Like I said, folks in the chat, if you ever didn't catch what I said, just ask me to say it again.
The hard part is that there's a slight delay between what we say and what the chat hears. So you just work with what you got, yeah?
Yep, supposing so.
Alrighty then. Well, I haven't been able to find that short story I was looking for, but we move ever forward. Now, you've already mentioned Lauren Faust's enjoyment of G1 and how Firefly transitioned into Rainbow Dash of a sort. But I read some extra MLP G1 references here. Again, not giving it away. But what inspired you to reference the good old My Little Pony and Friends?
Well, truth be told, Friendship is Magic is not my first brush with ponydom. Though, ironically, not when I was a kid. I was born in '84. Came of age during the very toyetic revolution of anime movies, Transformers. I never really watched My Little Pony, although there was like one scene that I came across rain for some reason.
Oh, sorry, I tried changing the region of our call. How do I sound now?
Sounds good.
Okay.
I think about the same.
I'm sorry for interrupting.
No, it's good. So, my tastes are very odd. When I was a kid, I liked to watch like Universal movie monster videos and Godzilla films, rather. This was before YouTube. And then when I got to college, I got into like watching a bunch of like old cartoons, including classic My Little Pony. I can't exactly remember how that started. I think it was because I read like a fanfic someone wrote that involved like the Justice League in Ponyland, which was G1 Equestria, basically. Justice League Ponyland by LM. She's now called Blue Sky Scribe, I think. Very wacky, thick. Maybe you want to, check out the show to see if they were anything like how she wrote them. They were not. She took her own liberties. But I still became, a little familiar with My Little Pony and Friends, My Little Pony Tales. And this was also kind of part of, like, a lot of fandoms, early fandom material like to treat those as kind of like the prehistory of Equestria. Maybe not the presence of humans like Megan or whatever, but they tended to think that, before the show introduced them, that there was, earlier periods of equestrian history that involved like Tyrek and Grogar and the Smooths, and then they all ended up in the show.
Yep, surprise!
Yep. So I just wanted to So yeah, that was also very much a thing in the Luniverse. So again, that influence is kind of being worn on my sleeve. That and the fact that I never fell head over hooves in love with early Pony, but I did enjoy them enough, and I do like seeing them get a little representation, at least at, My Little Pony conventions. I don't like when, old school Pony fans are just eternally dumped on, even though I do think that, Friendship is Magic is qualitatively better, but, still should pay homage to your roots,
Yeah, I get you. You represent.
Yeah.
And, well, you've mentioned a few fanfic authors, but I'm curious if you've got some mainstream or some fanfic authors we haven't listed yet?
In terms of like non-fanfic writers, like my reading is a little eclectic. Most of what I read is historical, political. I'm not going to get into that. Um, in terms of series that I've read, a lot of the times I'm kind of nagged into it. Oh, now I kind of feel ironic telling that to you.
Well,
But
it's a vicious cycle, I tells you.
yeah, but like series that I've read, um, like the Hitchhiker's Guide series by Douglas Adams, the Discworld by Terry Pratchett. I adore The Witches. Um, I can't think of like a direct influence in terms of like my writing style because it's very ad hoc, self-taught, I suppose, by and large. Um, if I had to describe my writing, I'm very character centric. So it's like a struggle for me to like depict an action scene or to remember to describe like the scenery, the background, like where the hell the characters are. Like a lot of the stories on my fan fiction page are basically just two characters talking. I really love character work. It's what I try to develop the most, even if sometimes it leads to not a lot of action. So sometimes I'll read like how Pratchett did narration or described scenery to try to remind myself to do, yeah, I got to do the other stuff too.
You know, my favorite Pratchett description has always been at the end of The Color of Magic, where in an effort to have, for some honesty in descriptions, the golden sunlight did not flood the land. People did not become simultaneously very rich and very dead.
Yeah.
That was peak humor for me. Peak word.
Yeah, I'm a
wordplay.
I'm very fond of when the narration has a bit of a sense of humor to it, or at least is like engaging a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Although it's sometimes a struggle. Like one of the things when I was started working with other people and proofreaders and editors is like nailing down and being consistent with things like perspective or like um like different authors do different things, but in general the advice I've been given is to like keep the perspective consistent. Like if you're following, for example, if you're writing, a Harry Potter story, you're following Harry Potter around. Except for like the very first chapters to set things up. You don't ever like take a break from Harry, go off and find out what such and such is doing. You have that one character you follow around. If he doesn't see something, if he doesn't know something, then you don't know that. And sometimes the temptation is to like not always follow that consistently and try to tell the audience what other characters are doing or seeing. And I had to be like cautioned. You really probably shouldn't be doing that because 90% of your story is just following Rainbow Dash around. So it doesn't make sense that we're suddenly seeing inside Fluttershy's head to know what she's thinking when that's not been a thing before. So things like that I kind of learned by working with other people. Although, different writers have different styles. Like one of my proofreaders is of the school that adverbs are, a pox upon writing. And I'm like, they're part of the language for a reason. Yeah, I get that overuse of adverbs is telly or annoying or whatever, but I really hate the impulse to like strip out every adverb from a page. That's just a minor gripe of mine.
Hmm.
Yeah, some people think it's just bad writing. And I don't get it.
I just sincerely hope that this friend has never watched an old Speed Racer cartoon. Meanwhile, a secret meeting is taking place secretly. I'll drive him just plain bonkers.
Well, he's our editor. He was my editor, and his fandom name is Kamikaze, as in the comma, the punctuation mark, because he would just go through and like, you've used too many commas, and would just like get rid of so many of them. You've met him. He's a Dan. I've brought him around the table a couple of times at some conventions. He's helped set up.
Gotcha. Oh, will I get to see him?
Yep, and
will I get to see him at Everfree?
Fortunately, no, just me this time.
Well,
top of the hour, so time to save.
In just a moment. But first off, there is no just you. There's you. Yeah.
Yeah. But to get back to the question of other fanfic writers, so I've mentioned a few tonight. Rainbow Double Dash, for the Luniverse. There were a couple of stories by like Aldea Donda and Fairy something that just kind of posited to some kind of celestial Rainbow Dash connection because, rainbow names and everything. And I think those two things were kind of what came together to come up with the idea of Rainbow Dash as Celestia's student.
Mm-hmm.
But after I started writing, I started getting feedback from other people and writers, and I started talking with other writers who kind of reached out and said, hey, you've got a real good grasp on Rainbow Dash. Can we chat? I want to bounce some things off you from my story to make sure I get the character right. So, we started collabing and talking, and like we've been a very tight-knit group of friends ever since. Like we talk almost every day.
Nice.
Yep. All of them are writers in the pony fandom. They've since moved on to other things. One is Shengar Kordoth. He wrote what's affectionately called the Winning Verse. His signature fic is The Life and Times of a Winning Pony, which is all about the minor secondary Pegasus character, Cloud Kicker, and her vivacious lifestyle. She's very, every title chapter is named after, a boast of Charlie Sheen's, just to give you an idea. Then there's Ponibius, which is a pun name based on a famous Greek historian who collabed closely with Chengor, did some of his own stuff. I strongly recommend Flurrygeddon, just an apocalyptic story brought about by Flurry Heart, because, of course she would be the end of the world. It's a comedy, it's hilarious. And Kamikaze has written a few stories. He's mostly been our behind-the-scenes editor, doing all of the extensive grammar checks. Extensive. Imagine a story going to a doctor and being given a proctological examination. That's what he does from a linguistic grammar sense of things.
Oh, sounds like a pain in the
Sorry.
arse.
It's very intense work trying to get a story up to really solid grammar because there's so many rules you've never heard of. And back in the day, Equestria Daily was really kind of strict about the kind of stories they would promote on the page. If your story had even a few grammar errors or whatever, they would not want to promote it, which I thought was a little weird. Unless the story is really terrible or something, why not? But whatever. And yes, Swordbreaker 12. There were a few stories where Rainbow Dash was depicted as Celestia's daughter. That was including by Aldea Donda, who, as I mentioned, was one of the influences. I guess the Rainbow Mane, the fact that her Rainboom was so legendary and unprecedented almost, and it played such a key role in connecting the group, just kind of fed into this idea that should probably be given more weight in story. In the story of My Little Pony, anyway. Not that she should be Celestia's daughter. That's not the road I went with. But yeah, that is the thing.
Plus, then you get to the question of, but who's the father? And then, well, it just gets weirder from there. So, you've covered the proofreaders who helped will solidify your style and guide you along with what sounds like some interesting and sometimes chaotic input, which is very much par for the course in creativity.
Yeah, that's the lesson of writing. I don't care how successful you are, you're never too big to have an editor. In fact, I can think of a couple of fairly prominent writers and authors, very talented, very successful, who got so big that no one wanted to like edit their works anymore or push back on some of their ideas, and you can kind of see that in practice. And their work probably suffered a bit from that.
I'm thinking of George Lucas at the moment.
Yeah, there's there's others I could name, but yeah. So editing is important. Challenging ideas is important. Like when I wrote the story originally back in 2011-12, I was kind of very writing off the cuff, not with any like plan in mind, and just I kind of fell into the classic fan fiction trope of just tossing stuff in because it seemed cool, or I thought it seemed cool, or it related to what else I was interested in at the time, even though it didn't really make sense and I had no intention of following it up, which was kind of why when I thought of going back to the story for publication, I would kind of rework and excise some of those more outlandish elements that really were incongruous with what I was doing. I could list examples, but it was, just whatever I was influenced by when I was originally writing it. I was listening to the Wicked soundtrack, so I had the characters singing songs from Wicked wholesale, even though, the very different themes, that and just, copyright issues and, just lifting wholesale from original sources without even changing anything around. Not traditionally like the best writing moves.
Mm-hmm.
So those were the kind of things I had to go back with and rethink once I started working with collaborators rather than just kind of freestyle soloing it. I mean, the original story was fun. It, got its own TV tropes page and all. Back when the Fandom was at its peak, I got like a lot of likes, a lot of faves and all that. And it's disappointing to see that. I mean, it's the eternal complaint of any content creator that, the thing you work so hard on will get like a fraction of the likes and faves that some middling or just off-the-cuff idea that you put like 2 seconds of thought into will get a tons more attention. Like, we've all been there.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. It's... I mean, I'm just glad that anyone is reading, reviewing, leaving comments, what have you. But, there's a difference between, just, I enjoyed, when I was writing the first story, but I did want to build off it, and I kind of built in things that I had no plan or intention on following up with, and it was like, yeah, this is an issue, I need to address that. And that's part of the value of having collaborators to bat ideas around with. Like C.S. Lewis and J.R. Tolkien, for instance, used to shoot ideas back and forth all the time. And sometimes, a good friend will be able to tell you that your idea is crap without making you cry. More politely phrased, usually, but,
Well, I don't know. Sometimes I have friends who speak very directly.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, okay then.
Yep.
But hey, as long as you keep in mind that they're doing it out of a genuine constructive desire.
Yep. Absolutely. And, like, I don't have a copy of the book with me, but in the printed version, there is like a page where I go into like everyone who helped make this possible, and I list 6 people in particular as kind of key to my creative endeavors, and that includes Jose, that includes Ponibius, Changar, Kama. It also includes our mutual friend, the illustrious Q.
Hey, there we go.
Yep, who was kind of the key reason why I ended up going the route of trying to publish this book.
Alrighty. Now, what about the artists? Gosh, did I already close down the page with your art? Quick check. Yes, I did. I'm bad at this. What can you tell us about the artist to whom you reached out?
The cover artist, who also did one or two other scenes in the book, is I was looking for. I mean, if I'm being perfectly honest, publishing your own fan fiction is a bit of a vanity project. Let's be real. And I wanted it to look, as nice as possible. And through my connection with, the trio of collaborators who I've mentioned again, a lot of their cover art was done by a very talented artist. If you've been around the fandom long enough, you've probably seen her work. Her fandom name is Inuhoshi Tudokpen. She's Hungarian. She's exceptionally talented. If you want to pull up the cover, the first one, you can give them a glimpse of like what she can bring to the table. Yeah, that one. Mm-hmm. Yep, that is by Hoshi. She did a lot of the cover arts for, the Winning Verse and other stories. And since she's in Hungary, where pony conventions are not really a thing, and I would routinely go to conventions, she would ask me, "Oh, can you get something signed for me?" And she would send me PDFs of these little headshots that she drew of the characters of whoever the fandom talent was, and I would go get autographs for them. Quite a few over the years. So I reached out. Oh, she was actually also the artist I got to do that pin we did for your 40th or 42nd birthday? The continuity pins of your.
Oh, yes. I
Yeah.
real fondly, I'm just hesitant to admit how old I am again.
Yes. Yeah, she did the art for that one.
Marvelous.
Yeah. So since I knew her, yeah, has a very distinctive style. She's one of the fandom's best, which is a very crowded field. Let's be clear. There's a lot of insanely talented pony artists out there.
Mm.
So, I reached out to her. It was a commission. I still paid her, but all of these past connections made her like the obvious choice to go to for covers. In fact, for my original version of the story, she did the cover art for that as well.
Mm.
So I reached out to her, and she did the art, and I was kind of looking to I could have gone with like a consistent artist, like commissioned her to do like a dozen pieces, but I thought it would be more visually interesting and just more of a celebration of the fandom if I just got like different artists to each do like one pick each. So I reached out to like artists who a lot of whom I knew already because I had commissioned in the past or just had met in person, and asked them if they would be willing to take commission to publish in the book, and almost all of whom I said yes. So I've got Pixel Kitties, who, if you've ever been to a pony convention, 95% of them, if you go get an autograph from the talent, the voice actors, the writers, whomever,
Mm-hmm.
there will be a Pixel Kitties will be the one who did the autograph page, the official autograph art that you can get signed at the table. She does those, and she's stellar at them. I was so happy that she was able to do one pick for the story. Imalu, who was she was originally a fandom artist, but she later was hired as a designer for when they were working on Generation 5. She's on, Twitter. She's very talented, very wonderful. I got her to draw one of the climactic scenes, and I was so happy for that. She's amazing. pretty much all of the artists I got were amazing. I would have liked to get more, but I kind of overspent as it was on this. Um, yeah. But yeah, I ended up getting something to the tune of 18 or so different scenes scattered throughout the story from like 16 or 17 different artists. Jose, did one particular one that is hard to say without getting to spoiler territory, but it was a type of pony that he's very fond of.
Aha.
Yep. So yeah, I wanted to get like I'm not quite sure how to best phrase it. Like a lot of the most like recognizable like names in the fantasy. Not to like draw attention or anything, just to kind of like celebrate like some of the best among us. Not that anyone who is not included is not the best. There are other people I would have wanted to, but just was kind of pressed for time, pressed for cash.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, was really happy with how the art came out. Everyone turned in like something amazing. And now that I've been publishing, printing the books, they've started publishing them. I wanted them to wait a little bit before posting the art, but I've given them the go ahead, and they gave me the go ahead to post the art in my DA gallery.
Nice. In fact, let's talk a little bit about the publishing process.
Sure.
You mentioned that Twilight's Library helps people. Wait, am I saying that right? Is that the name?
Book Nook.
Twilight's Book Nook. Thank you. They help with getting a fanfic published in tangible form. What did that entail?
Well, there's generally two routes that I'm familiar with. Like my friend Shengar, he actually did a print run of Winning Verse, The Life and Times of a Winning Pony, which was also kind of an impetus for me to take my own stab at things. I forget exactly how he went about doing it. Sometimes people do it through a Kickstarters, like a fanfic author I'm quite fond of. Let me just make sure I'm saying his name right. Chris Overstreet recently did a Kickstarter to publish his, extremely lengthy and fun fanfic, Changeling Space Program, and The Martian. And that was done through Kickstarter, which, in retrospect, maybe I should have done that, because I'm kind of operating at a bit of a loss, if I'm being honest with the books. But a lot of other fanfic authors self-publish through Lulu Books, Lulu Publications. That's Lulu, Lulu Publishing. And, the Book Nook has like a Discord server that gives you tips on like how to work that. Which, yeah, I'm not going to go there. There was a bit of an issue some people had, right before Everfree with Lulu Publishing, because you're technically not really supposed to publish fanfic through them, but sometimes they can let it slide. But so it's, from a technical perspective, it's a multifaceted process. It took me quite a while. First, the rewrite, getting all the editing done, that took literally years to do. Mostly because I was trying to figure out like what to change, what to keep, and then like going back and forth a few times on it. Then it was, getting my friends to have the time to do a deep dive, editing, grammar check of everything, turning it into a PDF, uploading it, ordering a test copy, make sure it all came out okay, like words weren't cut off, the spacing wasn't messed up. Um, yeah, it was just kind of a very long process, and there are people out there who will help walk you through it if you know where to look.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, sorry that was a little bit more rambly than I meant, but it's kind of hard to describe, really.
Well, I mean, you've given some interesting names. I mean, the funny thing about fan creations is that they've always danced the line in terms of intellectual property and copyright. Technically, we shouldn't do it, but anyone who enforces that idea would lose the support of the fans, thereby sabotaging the brand, thereby really...
My Games Workshop.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Yeah, ironically, I think it was my writing friends, Pony Chen, who got me into Warhammer through If the Emperor Had a Text-to-Speech Device at, like, one of the last BronyCons, right around the same time I think you were getting into it, which, we have in common in that that's pretty much the totality of our Warhammer experience, barring a few lore videos that we checked out on the side.
Yep, that sounds right to me.
Yeah. But yeah, it's tricky with publishing fanfics because sometimes you can get away with it, sometimes you can't. It's a lot of loopholes. I don't know how Fiora, like I know Fiora, probably went through a lot more of a process in getting some legal hoops she had to jump through. But but yeah, it's just kind of complicated. There are people who will help try to walk you through it, and if you're lucky, you'll find a publisher who won't look too closely and won't mind. And that's kind of seems to be where I'm at.
Makes sense.
Though, yeah. Though, ironically, as I said before, this whole process kind of got its start with, the illustrious Q. Way back in, I don't know when, like 2014, 15, we were both at a pony convention in New York. One of I forget its names. There were a couple of them after BronyCon went national. Big Apple PonyCon, New York PonyCon, whatever. And we were at like some celebrity guest dinner together with like Vincent Tong or something. And, he recognized me. Oh, you're the guy who wrote Rain, Booms, and Royalty. And I was like, oh, wow, this is the first time anyone's recognized me by reputation. And then the next thing he said was, you ripped off Superman's World of Cardboard speech, right? Which is true. I totally did. Like, I was trying to capture that kind of feel by literally having a character say that speech pretty much word for word. Not a great So this was like 2014, 15 Sherry Fluff Belly, not recently, unfortunately. So, that was kind of an impetus to kind of go back and maybe let's shed some of those awkward direct lifting from other sources kind of things. And when, he kind of would, periodically, he would poke at me, hey, other people are publishing their fanfics as books, you should totally do that. And he would kind of get on you, and eventually I decided, yeah, I'll do it. Hugh, he can be a touch relentless.
A touch?
Mm-hmm.
Transformers, the touch had greater subtlety. It's not
just a bit.
It's not an indelicate touch. It's not an invisible touch. It is a go for the gusto.
Destroying Unicron touch.
Full speed ahead, yes. Damn the torpedoes and all that jazz.
Yeah.
But either way.
Yeah, that was honestly like the start of going back to improving on, Rain Booms and Royalty and getting that, published in print form.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So I was trying to think of, do I have anything really to add to that? Yeah, it was just kind of a multifaceted process. I mean, just to give folks, let me see. Let me just pull something up because.
While you do so, I want to wish Amethyst Majesty 25 a good evening. Thank you for swinging by.
Hey, yo. So, pulling up, what did I say in my introduction to this story? I wrote the original story like from June to September of 2012. Honestly, that was a very short time span now that I look back at it. But I began working on like the print version in January 2016, and I didn't finish until like April of 2020. That is how long it took. Yeah. Just because of like the creative changes I was thinking of making, getting like the best results from my collaborators, and just the deep dive edits. It just took that long a process.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So it's was a pretty extensive process. Cherry, we're talking about The Touch, the song by Stan Bush from the Transformers animated movie, aka the only Transformers movie besides Transformers 1.
Indeed.
Yes.
It's also the greatest 80s power song you've ever heard.
It really is.
And the funny thing is, he didn't even write it for the Transformers movie. It was just that good. What was it?
Still bloody awesome.
Was it for a Rocky film, I think?
Huh.
Well, I'm unsure.
Yeah. Oh, Infinite Warlock, you had asked me a while back about some pony comics that I Patreon requested, commissioned with Jasper Pye, which were kind of me venting about certain shortfalls in the series as a whole. And it was just kind of me addressing like things that I wish the show had addressed. Like just some less than great character behavior that just got on my nerves. It was just me kind of trying to vent in a somewhat constructive, cathartic way, I guess. I don't know. I just saw that he had asked, and I thought I might as well answer that at some point. Oh, and we have a Master Code in the chat.
Hello, Master Code Analyst. How ye be? Well, I will have to wait for the chat to catch up. But either which way.
Yep.
And, well, I think it's healthy to vent even frustrations with a piece by the series of creative work. Because, well, creativity can be wonderfully liberating from those frustrations.
Yeah. I'll admit, I've written like a fix-it fic or two, which directly addresses and counters something about the show or an episode that I just did not like. Some of them I think were, well written and were fairly well received, which is usually not the case with fix-it fics. Some were less so. And even and I've come across stories that were, I agree with you that I hate this character's behavior, but even I think this is going too far. It's the Transformers deviations with Rodimus Prime kind of thing.
Oh, yeah.
Like, even if you don't like the character, after a certain point, it really feels like we get the picture, you can move on.
That's right. Move on. Go forward. Move ahead. Try to detect it.
Or when it comes to that comic, it's more of the Simpsons clip. Stop! He's already dead.
Yep, that was very fitting.
Yeah. Hmm. But yeah, you know, there's a good way and there's a positive and negative way to like be inspired by, series or, how to address what you perceive at least to be faults or flaws in the original.
Mm.
Like without going into spoilers, I've been Celestia did not terribly impress me in her capacity as either a ruler or a teacher by the end of the series. So when I wrote her, it was very much writing her. This is what I think good mentoring is or ought to be, while still showing that, she's still ultimately fallible. I don't write her as perfect. I think that creates an unrealistic expectation and makes it a lot harder to overlook when she invariably messes up or has to be taken out of the picture.
Oh.
So some of my writings and theories were kind of like responses to certain perceptions or depictions of the characters, I should say, or just things that fans have noticed or I have noticed that I kind of like was like, yeah, this is an issue the show never really tackled. I think I want the characters to actually address the elephant in the room.
Ooh, also, can there be an elephant while we do it?
No, he's busy waiting in your comic.
For years now. Oy.
Yeah.
A quick
Stones and Glass Houses. I've been trying to get back into more regular writing, and it's been a little slow going. I've got like at least one more big dash for a story that I want to do that I've been promising for like over a decade, and I'm like, I really need to get on this at some point. I don't want to pull a J.R.R. Martin.
Oh, I think you can pull it. I mean, he's not going to complain. He's just going to take another 3 years or so.
Yeah. Well, I also couldn't pull off the physique.
Oh, my goodness, no.
No.
Actually, it's a sad state that many of my favorite writers it's been a decade since their last book. Or at least the last book in the series I most enjoy.
Yeah. Sometimes writers get busy with other adaptations of their existing works. Other times they're just impacted, I guess, creatively by what's going on in the world, and that tends to affect creatives too. Or they're just legit stuck or just not motivated to write. That happens too. It's like one of the eternal frustrations for me is that every time I'm motivated to write, I don't have time or something comes up to utterly spoil my mood. And all the times, I have time, I just don't feel motivated to write, or I just don't have anything, wanting to come out. It's always like that dichotomy. You want to, but don't have time. You have time, but don't want to. It's like threading a needle trying to actually write when you really want to write and having the time to do so.
I hear you, and I understand.
Yeah.
I've been there many, many, many times.
Yep.
But we keep on plugging.
Yep. Now, what was that So I'm just looking at the chat. Would that be the Discworld series you tend to bring up? Well, I don't think he was talking about that so much because, unfortunately, Terry Pratchett died some years ago of Alzheimer's. So there aren't any more books coming from his particular pen of genius.
Yes, I'm afraid I'm thinking more of George R. R. Martin. It's been a decade. And Patrick Rothfuss, who wrote The Name of the Wind and The Wise Man's Fear.
Yep.
And unfortunately, I'm not sure when that's going to continue. But, well, that's... Sorry?
Oh, I'm sorry. After you.
Well, simply put, creativity takes time, but gosh darn if We don't struggle with that sometimes. That it's like, okay, how much time is too much?
Yep.
Oh,
Yep.
okay.
Not to selfishly self-promote, but I'm currently writing another story, just uploaded a new chapter that's also set in what is commonly called the Dash-verse, Dash as Celestia's pupil, that involves bringing in a certain character who was not present in Rainbooms and Royalty, who was kind of a mainstay of the series, but I just didn't see a need or a place for it in, my original story.
Well, I'll have to keep my eyes open for that one.
Yep. It's, just always the struggle of, writing and getting things done. Do even Infinite Warlock, do people still even care about Game of Thrones? Well, yes, the TV show fell off about as hard as it is possible to fall off. But House of the Dragon was the first season or two, whatever we got, was quite good. And people still enjoy the setting, the world of
Westeros?
I was going to say Westeros, but then I remembered, there's other continents, so that's not quite appropriate, but whatever. It's the best we can come up with. That's an interesting thing that I've sometimes come back to with, creativity and shows and franchises and the ones people come back to or don't come back to. Just for sometimes, like I was just talking about, you see an issue or something that's at least an issue for you, even if it's not an issue for everybody, in the show, and you're inspired to try to address it in some way, shape, or form. But sometimes you're so negatively impacted by a series or show that you're just done. You just write it off and never want to engage with it again. And it's sad when that happens, but it's really but it's just such a hard to say when it's like what prompts people to do the latter as opposed to the former. Just as a weird, for instance, me and my writing friends once did this. We occasionally, to help creativity, we role play as different characters to kind of, get the voices of the characters down. And sometimes, just for fun, we'd like to toss the pony characters in with characters of other shows that we were very fond of. She-Ra, Gravity Falls, The Owl House, Amphibia. We were also fans of Star vs. the Forces of Evil, and then that show ended right at the same time as Game of Thrones, and not much better than Game of Thrones. So it just killed any interest, so we just never did anything with those characters. We weren't inspired to try to, do a take on those characters that was better than what the show did. We were just, completely divorced from, no, just drop it. And... Yeah, Infinite Warlock, that's pretty much what I'm talking about. Sometimes, there's a flaw or an issue with a series and you're inspired to want to address it, to work through it so that you can enjoy the series without further issue. And some you're just like, no, I'm checked out, I'm done. And I don't totally know what the threshold is. I'm sure that's, comes down to individual preference and all. I know Silver, a lot of fans, hit his limit with Spidey over a certain deal with the devil.
Hey. Meh.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes, that kind of thing makes you want to write a story where Spider-Man kicks the crap out of Mephisto, but other people just didn't want to deal with Spider-Man anymore. It was just such a turnoff. So creativity is, I guess, fickle at the end of the day.
Oh boy, and then there was the ending to Ironheart.
I haven't really watched Marvel TV series since, what was it? Secret Invasion was what really kind of killed my interest. I started, the second episode, I'm like, no, I'm done. The only ones I really still view positively were, Loki, Miss Marvel, and I think there was at least one other I kind of... Oh, Moon Knight. Definitely enjoyed The Crazy Egyptian. I might have a theme.
Quite possible.
Yeah. But yeah. So yeah, like speaking of that, like I was really checked out after Secret Invasion. I just stopped watching their streaming series. I went to the movies because my dad's still really fond and it's a thing we do. But up until the most recent stuff, it just hasn't been very good. Thunderbolts was good, well, and Fantastic Four was good. But yeah, that was a bit of a slump there.
It's been a slump for a while. I mean, Eternals, my gosh.
It was. Q like to say that's a show that's a movie that really should have been a series, and I didn't hate it when I watched it, but it was like, yeah, it's not super engaging, and then they kind of just forgot anything happened with it. There's a giant head poking out of the earth now. Yeah, whatever.
Well, Captain America: Brave New World tried, emphasis on tried.
I did not even want to see that movie. In fact, I made a point of not seeing it for various reasons. Mm-hmm. Although it says something that after Fantastic Four, commentators were saying, wow, Marvel's back. It's 2 for 2 this year between this and Thunderbolts. And I'm like, they totally forgot Brave New World happened, didn't they? Or maybe they just tried to put it out of their mind. I don't know.
I thought it was okay, but not great, not redefining, which is unfortunate.
Yeah. Honestly, though, the best movies I've seen were actually last Sunday. I saw both The Bad Guys 2 and K-Pop Demon Hunters, which a lot of pony fans were making like Equestria Girls comparisons, which is fair, but a few who kind of had the very skewed perception it was like a direct inspiration for, and honey, no. The tropes of that movie are like so much older than Equestria Girls, but it's a very fun movie, and it's interesting to see how people in the pony fandom still engage with pony-like shows, even if they don't involve ponies. Like you and I both know a bunch of MLP fans who are now totally into Bluey and would view that as more of a successor show than, say, what's it called? Wild Mains, or the unfortunately prematurely aborted G5 series.
The G5. I feel
so bad for their fans. Like, I don't think it was particularly good or great as a follow-up to what came before. I love the characters, the stories and setting, just the confused way they just did everything was just not conducive. Though admittedly, this is also just companies are just like prepared to like jettison a fully finished show at the drop of a hat these days. Especially in animation, where it's very rough. Well, just look at like the huge fight to get Coyote versus Acme out. Jesus.
Well, I don't even know if that's just these days. I remember Saturday morning cartoons, ABC. If your show wasn't super popular within a week, it was gone. It's too bad. There were shows that had potential.
Something to that, but it's definitely picked up a lot in the last couple of years. There's a lot of shows that were greenlit for another season. Some of them were actually completed or were partly completed, just being prematurely canceled, scrapped at the last minute. Some of them were very popular. Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur, The Owl House got a very abridged, rushed third season, and we're kind of lucky to have gotten that, given the company. I just we kind of journeyed a little bit away from fanfics, but I just like talking about the things that inspire me, and even the non-pony stuff tends to like inspire me creatively, like just different ways characters act. That's kind of like, I guess, is my big hobby horse.
Mm-hmm. Well
I
done.
really, uh, I'm a strong believer in diversity, not just, the kind you're probably thinking of, although that is most definitely the case as well. But the reality is that whenever someone is tempted to say, no one likes this or everybody loves that, you're wrong. It doesn't matter what you're talking about. You're wrong because there's always someone who likes the thing that no one else likes or dislikes the thing that everybody else loves. That is just the diversity of human thinking and human feeling. Like you will meet people who like subjects that are just completely like unfathomable. There are kids who like high school math. I cannot fathom liking math. It's so weird. It is so ridiculous to me, but there are people who honestly love it.
You would say it just
And
doesn't add up?
they'll sit in the corner.
No. I don't have any quarters right now.
Oh, so you're pointless.
Exactly. Well done.
Yeah. So yeah, my point is that there's always going to be people who are outliers. There's always going to be people who have, and while there is a needed fuel for representation, for connecting with the audience on the basis of shared experiences, there also needs to be characters who would dislike you, who get you to try to expand your mind a little bit more, to think from perspectives that you typically don't. And that's kind of like what I enjoy so much about Rainbow Dash, because she actually forced me to think beyond, my comfort zone. Because I totally would think like a Fluttershy or a Twilight most of the time. And I had to force myself to think, what is it like to actually be that confident character who just goes for something, who doesn't endlessly think about, okay, here's what can go wrong, here's how I can mess up, but just goes for it with the assumption that she'll somehow manage to do it. And she usually does.
Mm-hmm.
So you need that element too, I think. You always need people who are will. I'm going to just go back to the well of Terry Pratchett and steal one of his more famous lines. You need to be at the place where the falling angel meets the rising ape. It's important to be, grounded in reality, to meet people where they're at in order to form connections with them. But it's also good to inspire them to try to be more, So that's what Rainbow Dash has always done for me, and that's why I've always been very attached to the character.
Hmm.
Yeah. And that's why I always like it when shows try to involve characters who, just have a different way about them, just a different way of interacting with the world that makes you think, oh, maybe there is a different way of thinking about things. Because the impulse is always to think, it is what it is. This is just the way the world works, and everyone knows this. And then you meet someone who doesn't, who operates on a different framework, and that gets you to rethink, okay, and what is and actually isn't possible? I need to rethink that because the things I thought maybe were impossible actually aren't. And that's something that is, especially needed nowadays. Yeah.
Indeedy.
So that's my sermon of the word of the Dash. Go forth. Be awesome.
All hail the Spectrum One.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Alrighty, let's see here. Just
rooting the chat.
very all good. I'm just working on these last little bits of Anthrocats. Very difficult. But very well said all around.
What were you saying?
Well said all around. So you dropped some good truths there.
Thank you. Too bad there aren't any Thundercats you could just put in to pad out the stock, but it would be a little bit noticeable.
Yeah, it'd be a little out of the way. Although made the funny observation today, everything 80s-ish seems to be getting crossovers. I said as I purchased a Ninja Turtles party wagon that transforms into an Autobot.
Yeah, speaking of just creativity, it is kind of the eternal issue of, I love seeing like the old characters done in different styles and stories that lets them do things that they couldn't do with them in the 80s. But it's also a case of, I do want to see more original content every now and again, so we're not just endlessly repeating the same IPs. But then there's always just, are they properly marketed? Do people go out and see them? Because then the new stuff doesn't do so well, and then there's just reinforces stick to the old established IPs.
It is the difficulty, indeedy.
Yeah. Yep. Seeker the Brony asks, he was responding. Swordbreaker 12 asked, didn't Bluey of episode get banned? Well, Bluey is an Australian series, which I guess Aussies have a slightly different standards than the rather prudish American censors. So when Disney, which is the platform that Bluey is hosted on, they declined to post up an episode that depicted Bandit, Bluey's father, play acting as a pregnant person, pretending to give birth. So I guess Disney was not comfortable with that for whatever reason. There were a couple of other minor scenes from various episodes that they cut out that you can only see from if the Australian channel puts up the full episode. Yeah. Swapbreaker 12 also says, I miss Reboot. Oh, speaking to what we've just said. Reboot was awesome. Reboot the Guardian Code was
painful.
Every shot was just like a full-on view of the person's face under the mask. I don't need to see your nose hairs.
Ugh.
Get the camera out of there. Yeah.
Well, we're in the final minutes of the stream, so I just want to point out, at Everfree Northwest, Twilight's Book Nook is number 30 on the map. So let's go to the map. So 30... Oh, here we go. So when you come in to the vendor hall, just look to your right, and it's going to be over here, freestanding and fully celebrated, which then...
And just to self-promote, I think there's a few hours on Saturday where I'll be hanging around volunteering, signing books. Well, signing my books, it would be a little strange if you bought other people's books that I would sign. So, yeah, I'm bringing 10 copies of Rain Booms and Royalty. They're $35 each. I also have an order form somewhere on my Twitter. I should probably repost that one. And I'll also be involved with a pin swap meet. This is my other thing I'm kind of known for in the fandom. I am the collector of My Little Pony pins. And the illustrious Q was good enough to set up a pin swap meet, just a place to meet and trade pins around. Usually I would put it in, but I was a little late in joining Everfree, so he kind of went through and set it up for me. So I'll be there, bringing pins. It's one of my hobbies, writing and pins. That's kind of the two things I'm known for in this fandom.
Right, so that'll be on Friday. Let's find it. The pin swap meet is at 7 o'clock, I believe. Pony programming.
Yep, Friday, right after the vendor hall closes, I believe. That way the vendors could actually take part without having to lose sales.
Right, so that's 7 p.m. in Special Events 2.
And you will be doing, a lot of things, but your crowning achievement, which, I consider to be your, after the fact, will be Friday from 11:30 to 12:30 at the front page room, where you will be doing an after fact live on Sisterhood Social. your favorite episode.
Oh, yes, he's my favorite. Sadly, at BabsCon, a scheduling brouhaha meant I needed to pedal to the metal on presentation. Now I can hopefully do the full thing with proper time on discussion.
Yeah. Yeah, that was quite a speed run, at Babs. Bit of a, I mean, yeah, I was gonna, whatever. We had fun regardless, but, I'm glad you'll be able to talk at length about your favorite episode.
Mm.
I'd be hard picked to pick a favorite of mine, truth be told.
Yeah, it's no easy thing, but thankfully you don't really have to pick.
True.
It's like it's like a lesson from Surf and or Turf, but without needing to invoke Little Shy's everything they got wrong. Which is fair. I like the episode, but if you've seen Little Shy's video, there are some very valid points in all of that.
I would love to see someone do like a few side-by-side comparisons, because there are a few episodes and themes of Friendship is Magic and Bluey that have tried to tackle the same subject matter. And I would be so curious to see what people thought of them, because Bluey also did a somewhat metaphorical divorce story that wasn't really about a divorce. And just be so interesting to see someone familiar with both, just try to see what story beats they both did and where one maybe was better at one thing and vice versa. Like I said, I really do think that is like the real successor series to Friendship is Magic in a way.
Well, I'm unsure myself, but that's for something down the road.
I'm sure someone will hijack you and, Clockwork Orange make you watch it after they make you watch. What else is on your list now?
Well, let's see, K-pop Demon Hunters, to be sure. I've only gotten part way through the Avatar series, the original. Haven't touched Legend of Korra.
Yeah. That's Sweetie Bloom. Who's the one who's on you for Avatar? Besides everybody.
Well, that's Sweetie Bloom.
That's Sweetie.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, I'm still on you for The Good Place. And what else?
Oh, I need to watch Code Lyoko, or finish it.
The big heads.
Yep.
That's all I know about the show. The characters have abnormally sized heads.
Who's that guy with the big head? Big head. Yeah, that's from way back, Mystery Science Theater.
Talk about making us feel old.
Meh. Well, either which way. Everyone, this has been fun. Trinary, thank you for sharing your thoughts and your insights into the creative process for writing.
Thanks for indulging my pontificating. I feel like I spoke for about 75% of your stream.
Oh, come on. We're here to hear you pontificate, or ponytificate, as it were.
Nice.
So, but with that, I'm going to wish everyone a fun, good evening and a wonderful weekend. We'll see you in 2 weeks at Everfree Northwest. And, I'm still working on videos. Despite this dry spell, I promise they're a-coming. Is there anything else you'd like to plug, Trinary?
Let's see. Just support your local vendors. Check out the Book Nook. Enjoy Everfree, and if you're not attending, support creative people when you encounter them online. It really makes a difference in their ability to keep going forward, whether that's for story, art, music, or anything else. And be sure to keep on this guy. Make sure that he actually takes a break now and then.
Never! Baby!
Also torture him with Hamilton and Good Place references.
There we
That's
go.
always good for a laugh.
Yeah, they just can't wait for it. So, Swordbreaker 12, next Friday there will be a stream, but it's the Friday after that where I'll be on hiatus. So, until then, my good peeps, I wish you just a wonderful weekend, good times. Hopefully you're staying cool or dry, depending on the temperature and climate right now. It's all kinds of crazy. But, regardless, be safe and be well. I'm Silver-Quill. Thanks for watching.